Mimiron is fought in a total of 4 different phases, with the 4th one merging parts, literally, of the previous phases. It features simple, yet extremely punishing mechanics, that usually result in one-shots. Phase 1. Mimiron engages the raid in a tank. He will regularly cast Napalm Shell at a random raid member, preferring ranged. The shell affects the player and any nearby allies. DBM will show a range radar. With a heavy debuff, fire damage. There is enough room so that Napalm shells should never hit more than the player it targets. Healing 2 players hit is manageable, though the loose spread might mean some players are out of range of most healers. Napalm shells looks like it's a fire AoE on the ground but actually isn't. It just chooses a player and hits them when it lands. There is no point trying to move out of it. The only movement needed is to fix a poor spreading. He will cast a few plasma blasts, 2 to 3, on his current tank, channeling to deal massive fire damage over the duration of the channel. Tank cooldowns and externals will be used here. He will cast a few shock blasts, 2 to 3, a long cast that deals lethal nature damage. Once complete, everyone should run out of it. Yes, even you, DKs. He will drop landmines around himself, slightly outside of his melee range. Frequently, these will only explode if stepped on. Melees should be cautious when running out of shock blasts, as there will surely be mines on their way. They are dropped in a semi-random pattern, usually leaving a few gaps to escape through. 2 mines worth of damage is lethal. Phase 2. Mimiron engages the raid in a robotic chest. No melee swings from the boss. Instead, he constantly casts Hand Pulse, dealing spellfire damage in a direction, targeting a random player and hitting everything in its direction. Its damage is oddly overtuned on Warmane, so heroism will likely be used here. Regularly fire novas, direct damage plus dot. Not an issue even with many players close to him. Casts rockets, 2 or 1 on Warmane. On random players, preferring ranged, the landing spot is marked in a bright red, and should be moved out of AS4. P. Lethal damage. Casts laser barrage. First he'll wind up in a direction, leaving time for the players to run to the sides. Once done winding up, he'll constantly deal lethal damage in the direction he's firing, slowly rotating, clockwise always. In the process, Hand Pulse is disabled during the barrage but will resume instantly once the barrage is complete. Phase 3. Mimiron will be flying in a robotic head, aerial command unit. He's targetable but cannot be reached by melee sources. Melees will instead be dealing with adds on the ground, not only to relieve the raid but also to bring down the flying head. Plasma Ball. The head doesn't melee but instead constantly fires every 2 seconds, for 8k-10k worth of magic damage on its current threat target, can be healed through as long as threat doesn't constantly bounces between warlocks. Better handled by having 1 Demolock. Because of Soul Link, weaving a few searing pains to out-threat everyone, can also be repeatedly taunted by a tank. If the threat target moves out of range, the head will follow along. It is otherwise immobile. Bombbot. The head drops a bomb-bot NPC right below its current position. It has low health and should be killed from range as it will detonate if it reaches its threat target. Chains of Ice and other CC work here. Assault Bot. Tanky adds that will spawn on locations marked by a red beam, the beam eye. TSELF does nothing. Deal high melee damage, enough to clap close, and can root the tank, which can be dispelled. When assault bots die, they drop an item that can be picked up, depending on loot rules, but usually anyone. Whoever picks the item must move below the head and use the item, which will cause the head to fly down to melee range, be incapacitated and take plus 50% bonus damage. Additionally, some junk bots will spawn from green beams, but they're nearly harmless and simply need to be picked up and cleaved. Phase 4. Mimiron combines the 3 parts fought previously. This results in a selection of mechanics encountered previously. The bottom tank melees his current tank, can move after his current tank, moving the bottom causing the whole robot to move, casts shock blasts, lethal, and lays landmines, near lethal. The middle chest fires hand pulses, launches rockets, lethal, and will cast 1 to 2 laser barrages that will need to be moved out of. The top head casts plasma balls at his current threat target. No adds will be involved in this phase. Mechanics from previous phases that aren't mentioned right above will not be present. Additionally, These 3 parts must be destroyed within 15 seconds of each other. If not, they will all be healed for 50% max HP. Essentials. Tanks. Phase 1. Use cooldowns on Plasma Blast and do not Facetank Shock Blast. Do not trigger landmines when running from Shock Blast. Phase 2. Avoid barrages. Phase 3. Pick up all the ads you can, but do not cause bomb bots to blow people up if they reach you. Use the item dropped by the assault bots below the head if you loot it. Phase 4. Do not Facetank Shock Blast. Do not trigger landmines when running from Shock Blast. Avoid barrages. Essentials. Healers. Phase 1. Stay spread and prioritize heals on napalm shells and plasma blasts. Phase 2. Avoid barrages and pump AoE heals. Run out of the rocket landing zones. Phase 3. Heal the target of the head. Your UI should reflect who has threat from something. And the tank. Stay out of bomb bots and assault bots. Phased. Avoid rockets, barrages and heal both the tank and the head's target. Essentials. DPS. Phase 1. Do not Facetank Shock Blast. Do not trigger landmines when running from Shock Blast. Ranged must stay spread. Phase 2. Avoid barrage and rockets. Phase 3. Mind your threat on bomb bots and assault bots. Ranged can stay on the head for the whole phase, might be up to change for hard mode. But multi-dotting the assault bot is welcome. Use the item dropped by the assault bots below the head if you loot it. Burst the head when it's down on the ground. Special assignments. A ranged DPS. Or other, to maintain threat on the head. Phase 3 and 4. A specific player to handle the item dropped by assault bots. Phase 3.